Okay, so today we're starting with something pretty challenging, but also, I think, really true. It comes from Steven Pressfield's book, Nobody Wants to Read Your Short Why That Is and What You Can Do About It.
Yeah, that title definitely doesn't pull any punches.
Exactly. And that blunt truth is really what we want to unpack here today.
Right. So, our mission, kind of in this deep dive, is to pull out the core lessons from Pressfield's, well, incredibly varied career. I mean, this guy went from advertising trenches to writing best selling fiction.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and figure out what it actually takes to make work that, doesn't just sit there, but cuts through all the noise and really hits home with people.
And the whole thing really, it seems to boil down to this one provocative lesson. Something he learned way back, day one, first job.
That's the one, the title of the book.
Nobody wants to read your chat. It sounds, I don't know, harsh, but he insists it was maybe the most crucial thing he ever learned about making anything creative.
It does sound harsh.
So this idea, nobody wants to read I mean, it sounds so dismissive, almost like nihilistic if you're a creator. How does Pressfield suggest we take that in? Without just getting cynical, what does it really mean?
Well, it's definitely not about malice, right? It's more about the reality of attention. Just think about it. People aren't waking up thinking, oh, I really hope I get to read that new ad today, or watch that commercial, or, read your screenplay or your Facebook post, or even the menu for your new restaurant. Why? Well, because they're already swamped, they're busy, and frankly, a lot of people actively dislike ads. They don't want to waste their time, their really valuable time, on something they might just see as, lying garbage.
Yeah.
So it's not personal. It's not about your talent. It's just the cold, hard truth of the attention economy we're all swimming in.
And Pressfield really flips this for young writers, doesn't he? Because what you often learn in school is kind of the opposite.
Totally.
Your teachers, your professors, they have to read your essays. It's their job. But then you get out into the real world, and suddenly nobody is waiting. Like, nobody at all. In fact, he says, sight unseen, they probably kind of dread it because it means they might actually have to read it.
Oof. Yeah.
That's a huge and often, pretty brutal shift in perspective for anyone trying to create something.
So given that, this universal indifference, the big question is obvious. What do you do about it?
Right.
In Pressfield, he goes right back to those early advertising days for the answer. He boils it down to 3 key strategies, basically.
Okay.
First, you have to streamline your message, make it super simple, really clear, easy to get instantly, no work for the reader.
Makes sense.
Second, the way you express that message, that's got to be irresistible. It needs to be fun or sexy or intriguing, maybe scary or just incredibly informative. Something so compelling that a person feels like they'd be crazy not to engage.
Okay. So grab them.
Exactly. Grab them and hold them. And the third point, which is crucial, is that these rules, they apply everywhere to all kinds of writing, all art, even business. It's universal.
Wow. So the implication then is pretty profound. When you really truly get that nobody wants to read your stuff, your mind just snaps into focus.
Yeah, it concentrates things powerfully.
You realize that writing and reading too, it's fundamentally a transaction. The reader is giving you their time, their attention, which is incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. Maybe the most valuable thing they have.
So as the writer, you have this absolute duty, this obligation to give them something back that's actually worthy of that gift.
Exactly. And Pressfield says this understanding, it builds empathy. It's critical. It lets you constantly switch hats, right? Go from your point of view to the reader's.
So you're always asking yourself,
Yeah, like, is this actually interesting? Am I giving them enough here? Are they getting bored? Is she following the thread? Am I losing him? You have to be ruthless with yourself.
that makes so much sense.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how his very first job, the one in advertising field, he openly says he hated most and respected least at the time. That's where he learned the most powerful, the most lasting lessons.
Right. The ones that carried through everything else he did later. Novels, screenplays.
Yeah, exactly. It was like his foundational training ground, even though he didn't see it that way then. It was the crucible where this whole philosophy got forged.
He paints this picture of his family, right?
Yeah.
Like no artists anywhere. Everyone was in business. Suits, offices, the whole 9 yards.
Right. Very traditional.
And he
Yeah.
contrasts that so vividly with this friend's dad, who was a magazine illustrator. Stumbling downstairs barefoot pajamas, middle of the afternoon. A totally different world.
Yeah.
And then his own entry, junior copywriter. Benton Bowles, New York City, 1967, making, what, $150 a week?
Yeah, not exactly glamorous starting out.
But he remembers riding the elevator, seeing creative depth on the panel, and just having this lightning bolt moment. That's me. I'm creative.
A huge realization.
He says it was revolutionary, totally life-changing, just seeing that word and identifying with it.
And this personal awakening for him, it actually happened right alongside this big shift in the advertising world itself.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, before the mid-60s, you had that whole Mad Men suit and tie era, right? And the idea of someone being specifically a creative person wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
But then you get these guys like Bill Bernbach, George Lois, Helmut Crony, these pioneers, and suddenly being creative wasn't just acceptable, it was actually becoming cool.
Okay.
And Pressfield found that this cultural shift gave him permission, in a way, permission to embrace who he really was. His anxiety, his introversion, all the neuroses, that obsessive drive. He finally found a professional home where those things weren't just tolerated, they might even be assets.
And it wasn't just a one-off thing for him, right? He kept going back to advertising. And each time, the goal was the same. Save up enough cash to go write a novel.
Exactly, which leads to this really important point he makes. It's okay not to be 100% pure.
Meaning
It's perfectly fine, maybe even necessary sometimes, to do commercial work, to do work for hire, to support your real passion, your art.
Yeah, the starving artist trope isn't always helpful.
Not at all. And he points out, look at people like Ridley Scott, Satyajit Ray, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Salman Rushdie. They all spent time in advertising, honing their craft, before they went on to create, as he puts it, immortal stuff.
That's a great point. It demystifies it a bit.
So if we connect this back to the bigger picture, one of the absolute most vital lessons Pressfield took from advertising was the incredible power of a concept.
Okay, and that's more than just a slogan.
Oh, way more. A real concept isn't just a catchy phrase. It creates a whole frame of reference, something much bigger than the product or the idea itself. It completely reframes the issue. It makes the audience see whatever you're offering in a very specific, often sympathetic, and definitely compelling new way.
He gives some really sticky examples of that, doesn't he?
Fantastic examples, yeah. Like Avis Rent-A-Car, they weren't number one, they were number two. So what did they do?
We're #2, so we try harder. Brilliant.
Exactly. It turns a negative into this huge positive. It implies better service, more effort, all because they're the underdog. Genius.
Or De Beers, a diamond is forever.
Right. That transformed diamonds. They weren't just shiny rocks anymore. They became these powerful symbols of everlasting love, of commitment. Suddenly, any other kind of engagement ring felt, well, a bit cheap, like maybe you didn't love her that much.
Wow. Yeah. That's powerful framing.
Hugely powerful. And then Nike, of course. Be like Mike. That campaign started with Michael Jordan, obviously, but the core concept, that aspiration, it's still driving their ads today, just with different athletes. It's adaptable.
So what's really fascinating then is how this idea of a concept goes way beyond just selling stuff.
Absolutely. Pressfield points out you see powerful concepts driving politics all the time. Think about phrases like death panels or job creators, or how the abortion debate gets framed as pro-life versus pro-choice. Those are concepts.
Yeah, they frame the whole debate.
Exactly. And he challenges you, the listener. Think about anything. What's the concept behind Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel? What's the concept for a new diet? Or even, he says, a simple salad on a menu. Everything can have a concept.
Which leads right into that idea of the high concept movie, right? That was huge in 80s Hollywood.
Bingo. Die Hard is the classic example he uses.
Right. The pitch you can give in like 10 seconds.
Yeah. Gang of thieves takes over a high-rise office building at night. But plot twist, one rogue cop happens to be trapped inside.
And instantly your brain just fills with cool scenes you want to see. Explosions, sneaking around.
Exactly, you get it immediately. And Pressfield saw that as being directly parallel to those killer advertising campaigns. Same principle, just in movie form.
So it even works for something as big as epic literature.
He argues yes. Think about Homer's Iliad. The Trojan War itself dragged on for 10 years. Homer didn't try to cover all of that. Can you imagine how boring?
Yeah, page after page of siege warfare.
Right. Instead, he focused. He found the core, the controlling idea, the wrath of Achilles. That's the high concept pitch for the whole epic.
Okay. So Achilles' anger becomes the engine.
Precisely. His rage, his withdrawal from battle, the consequences for the Greeks, his eventual, half-tragic return to save the day. It all spins out from that central concept.
He also stresses this idea from advertising that every assignment is basically a problem to be solved.
Yeah, your job as the creative is to find the solution.
He gives examples like, how does Samsung compete with Apple's cool factor? Or how do you convince people to eat turkey when it's not Thanksgiving?
Right, and his key insight here is that the answer, the solution, is almost always hidden inside the question itself. The first step, the most important step, is to really rigorously define the problem you're trying to solve.
Okay, so how does that apply to, say, writing fiction, when your novel's falling apart?
Well, that prompts a critical question for the writer, right? When your book or your screenplay just isn't working, the problem, Pressfield argues, is almost always the same. What is this damn thing about?
Meaning, what's the theme?
Yeah.
The core idea.
Exactly. What's the underlying message or transformation?
He uses Breaking Bad as a fantastic example of getting this right.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant example.
The creator, Vince Gilligan, he basically anchored the entire show in one scene, right there in the pilot.
Walter White's speech to his chemistry class.
Yeah, where he says, chemistry is the study of change. Elements combine and change. That's all of life, right? Solution, dissolution, growth, decay, transformation. It's fascinating, really.
And that wasn't just, some random exposition. That speech was the theme. Transformation. Every single episode, every character arc, it all circled back to that core idea of change. Phenomenal.
So clear.
And another key takeaway from advertising, super important for any creative work, really, is the call to action.
Right, the buy now button.
Exactly. Every good ad, every political flyer, every commercial, it ends by telling you what to do. Buy, subscribe, vote. Place your order now.
And in storytelling, that's like the payoff, the climax.
Yeah, it's Act 3, it's the resolution, you have to ask for the sale, right?
Yeah.
In storytelling terms, you have to deliver that satisfying conclusion or transformation that the whole story has been building towards.
And then there was this final kind of astonishing realization for him.
Yeah, this one really surprised him, apparently.
Art is artifice.
Right. He was genuinely shocked, even working in a quote-unquote creative department, to learn that actors in a TV commercial don't just make up their lines.
Huh. Yeah, you'd think it obvious, but...
But he didn't. He realized everything is meticulously planned. Where they stand, what they do, every single word they say. Nothing is spontaneous. It's all deliberate. It's all constructed.
That must have been liberating.
He says it was huge, a massive lesson that applied to everything he did afterwards. Writing isn't magic. It's craft. It's building something intentionally.
So after that first stint in advertising, Pressfield quits.
Yeah.
He's 24. He's going to write the great American novel.
Yeah, full of youthful confidence, probably.
But he admits he was just completely unprepared for what that actually meant, the reality of it.
Right. 4 years later, what's the picture?
Broke, divorced, crisscrossed the U.S. 13 times in his old Chevy van.
Wow.
Working all sorts of odd jobs, cab driver, bartender, tractor driver, oil field roustabout in Louisiana.
Jeez. Really paying his dues.
He almost ended up becoming a cowboy down in Texas before finally, basically broke and defeated, he went back to advertising. Round 2.
And his second attempt at writing, when he was 29. He describes himself as still totally clueless.
Still didn't know the basics.
Knew nothing, he says. Genre, narrative structure, theme, inciting incidents, 3 acts, none of it.
He started that attempt out in California with like $2,700 to his name, his cat, a table, and a typewriter. That was it.
But what's really revealing about this period, I think, is how he talks about the deeper struggle. It wasn't just about craft. It was fighting, quote, my demons. Yeah, he personifies it, this invisible, insidious, intractable, indefatigable force.
Resistance, basically.
Exactly. Resistance, as he later called it. And its only goal, to stop him from finishing his work, to stop him from actually getting the book done.
And he saw this pattern in himself, this heartbreaking pattern of getting right to the end.
The 1-yard line, he calls it.
And then quitting, folding, flaking out. He knew that was the real dragon he had to slay.
Yeah.
Not just learning plot structure, but conquering that internal resistance.
And all through these years, he's reading like crazy, right? Devouring the classics, War and Peace, Crime and Punishment.
Trying to absorb it all.
Yeah. But he felt like he learned, and I quote, not a fucking thing consciously from them. His main struggle was finding his own voice.
He felt like his writing just sounded fake.
Totally inauthentic. Screaming effort and fakery, he says. He was so desperate that he actually started copying pages from books he admired, like Henry Miller's Tropic of Capricorn, word for word.
Just to feel what it was like.
Yeah, just trying to experience what a real voice felt like on the page, even if it wasn't his. It shows you how deep that struggle went.
So where did the breakthrough on voice come from?
I
Something unexpected, right?
Yeah, really surprising. It came from rereading his own letters to friends, back when people actually wrote long, detailed letters.
Like not just emails or texts.
Exactly. And as he was reading them over, maybe correcting typos, he'd sometimes just stop and think, wow, that actually sounds like me.
Huh.
And it hit him. We figure out who we are not by thinking about it, but by what we actually say and do, by action.
So maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's how you write. You don't sit around trying to find your voice in the abstract. You let it emerge through the act of writing itself, just doing it.
It's a powerful shift.
Yeah.
And beyond voice, his other huge obsession became finishing, just getting it done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because he'd crapped out, as he put it, at 99.9% on that first novel attempt. He felt the shame of that failure, how it hurt people he cared about.
So this time, the second novel.
He was absolutely determined. At all costs, come hell or high water, do it or hang myself. That was his mentality. He just knew that amateurs, they fade at the finish line. Professionals push through.
And he describes that moment, typing the final words, in his later book, The War of Art.
Yeah, it's a powerful scene. 26 months straight he worked on it, with just a 2-month break where he had to do hard migrant labor to survive.
Wow.
And then finally he gets to the last page, types, "The end."
And how did it feel? Like fireworks? Champagne?
Not really. He says with this kind of stark honesty, nobody knew what I had done. Nobody cared.
Right.
But he knew. And for him, it felt like this dragon he'd been battling his whole life had just collapsed, dead at his feet. It was a profound internal victory.
And when he told a writer friend about it?
Yeah, he called up this seasoned writer friend, told him he'd finally finished, and the friend's response was just simple, profound, and maybe a little brutal. Good for you. Start the next one today.
Wow. No rest for the wicked.
Pretty much. But then he describes this other hurdle, maybe the biggest one, the ultimate hump he had to get over.
What's that?
He felt like he wasn't really writing, not like the writers he admired. He felt like he was using writing, or the sham or simulacrum of writing, as he calls it.
Like a performance?
Yeah, like a pretense, a way to just plant his own ego on the planet, to prove he existed, kind of like, taking a selfie or constantly posting on social media, making himself the hero of his own story, including the books he was writing.
And he knew that was, well, bullshit.
He calls it exactly that, bullshit. And he says this hump, getting over that self-centeredness, that's the real watershed. That's what separates the amateur from the professional.
So a real writer has something to give.
That's his argument. A real writer has lived enough, suffered enough, thought deeply enough about their experiences to actually process it into something valuable for other people, something beyond just their own ego.
Whereas the fake writer, or maybe just the young developing writer,
is mostly just trying to get attention. Look at me, look how clever I am, look how sensitive. He knew he had to get past that, or, as he put it rather dramatically, kill himself trying.
Intense.
Very. And he suggests this isn't just an intellectual shift. It has to happen deep down, like at a cellular level.
It took time then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He kept writing, novel after novel, for 7 years, he says, taking breaks when he had to earn money. And he was still wrestling with this internal hump.
He looks back on those early manuscripts now.
And finds it excruciating, he says. He wants to just slap his younger self for being so fake, so self-involved.
But he also feels compassion.
Yeah, deep compassion. For himself back then, and for anyone else going through that same necessary ordeal and initiation. Because ultimately, he concludes, there's just no easy way. There's no shortcut around the pain, around the work, around facing yourself. The real lessons, the ones that transform you, they come the hard way.
So wrapping up today, we've really dived deep into these incredibly candid, sometimes uncomfortable lessons from Steven Pressfield's journey, starting with that fundamental truth. Nobody is automatically waiting to read your shit.
Yeah.
And we've seen how actually embracing that reality, really internalizing it and combining it with, disciplined craft and the sheer guts to face down your own internal resistance, how that can radically change how you create anything.
Absolutely. We explored how understanding that core idea of a concept can just elevate any project, whether it's an ad or an epic poem, and how finding your authentic voice, and maybe most importantly, just pushing through to finish, how those are really profound battles, fought not just on the page, but deep inside yourself.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, as you go about your day. Think about something you're working on right now. Could be a big project, could be an email, could even be a difficult conversation you need to have. Ask yourself, what's my clear concept for this? And then what if you really truly approached it from Pressfield's perspective, that nobody has to pay attention? What immediate, powerful changes would you make right now to make sure it's absolutely undeniably irresistible?